Hey guys, it's David from Game Leads, and today I'm going to show you how to use automated rules to adjust your bids so that you can stay at the top of the page without necessarily being in the number one spot all the time. I'm sure you know number one spot is great, and there are times where you want to be in the number one spot, but there are also times where you don't want to be in the number one spot because you're getting enough traffic and it's just too expensive. The cost per click is too high, and sometimes you can, just by dropping your bids, you can actually get more leads and you can pay less. So and you want to be able to kind of, if you have hundreds of keywords, or hundreds of ad groups, it can get tedious to try every day to adjust your bids and try to shoot for the number two spot. So what you can do is actually set up an automated rule, and you can have that do your bidding for you, and you can get creative with it, and I'll just show you the basics today, and then you'll be able to kind of apply it to your specific situation. So here we are in the Adwords interface, and you're going to click on the wrench icon, and you're going to go here to rules. Now, part of this is what we choose here is going to depend on how you do your bidding. I bid on the keyword level for my clients, and so you might bid on the ad group level. So if that's the case, you're going to pick AdWords. Ad group level or keyword level. So let me just say, it looks like I've already got some rules here. So first thing you're going to do, you're going to hit this blue button, and you're going to choose, depending, ad group rules or keyword rules, and the option is change keyword bids. Now you're going to want to choose all enabled keywords, because there's no point in adjusting bids on keywords that are paused. And so what you're going to do is you're going to actually increase bids. We're going to do two different rules. One is going to increase bids and one is going to decrease bids. And so basically the logic here is that it's going to look at all your enabled keywords in all your campaigns, and it's going to check the average. It's going to first check if it's had any impressions yesterday, because you don't want to adjust bids on keywords that haven't had any impressions. So it's going to check the impressions, and if it's had more than one impression or more than 0 impressions, then it's going to increase the bids 10 or 20%. So we're going to do increase bids, and for this I'm just going to put 10%, and you can put an upper bid limit. I'll just put $10, and this it's kind of up to you. Now you're going to add the condition. So the first condition we're going to add is going to look for the impressions. Okay, so it's going to check impressions, and we want to know, did it have, so these are like yes or no questions. So the question would be, did it have greater than, sorry, I lost it. Did it have greater than 0 impressions? That's the first rule. And if the answer is yes, and it's asking the previous day, so you can adjust this if you wanted to. I do previous day for myself, but you can kind of choose what you think is best here. I think previous day works well for me. And email, you don't really probably want to get an email every time this rule runs. I would say only if there are errors. Now I'm actually going to add one more rule to this client because he only wants he doesn't want necessarily to drop bids on some keywords. For like lockouts, for example, he wants to keep those at number 1 because those are his best lucrative services. So I've put at the beginning of each of the lockout ad groups, I've named them lockout. So what I can do here is it's actually, so I want it to not, I want it to ignore the, I want it to ignore those ad groups. Okay, I think it's ad group, yeah. No, it's ad group name. Okay, so it's ad group name contains, and I'm going to put, it actually does not contain lockout. Okay, so I put that as in the beginning of each ad group that has to do with lockouts. So it's going to not adjust those bids. So you can do some cool stuff like that depending on your specific situation. Alright, so now also we need to check the average position of yesterday. So come down here to average position. Pass it. Average position. So this is the increased bid. So let's say that we want to shoot for the number 2 spot. We want to give it a little bit of flexibility. We don't want to say really number 2 spot. Maybe what we'll say is maybe 1.8 to 2.2 or something like that. I think would be good. So if it's greater than 2.2, and let's say 2.4. If it's greater than 2.4, that's what it's checking. Was the average position greater than 2.4? And greater in this case means basically were you lower on the page. It's kind of it was a little confusing for me at first, but it's basically it's saying like, is it greater than the actual number? So if you were 2.8 yesterday, then it would raise the bid on that keyword. So hit apply. Okay, so that's the logic set. That's the condition. So basically what this is saying is we're going to increase bids by 10%, but no more than $10, or 10 euros in this case, if the keyword had more than 0 impressions yesterday, the ad group does not contain the name lockout, and the average position is greater than 2.4. So it's lower down on the page than position 2.4. And if the keyword meets that criteria, then it's going to raise the bids 10%. Okay, and the rule name, I will call it increase bids. And I like to start it at 12 a.m. using data from the previous day. So it's going to run daily, and it's going to do it's going to check it at 12 a.m. your time, whatever account time you set for, and then it's going to use the data from the previous day. And so we're going to save that rule. Okay, and now we need to make a complementary rule to lower the bids if they get too high, if the position gets too high on the page. So now we're going to lower the bids. So we're going to add a new one, keyword rules, select the change keyword bids on all enabled keywords, And you can also do this on specific campaigns too. If you wanted to just do some campaigns, you can do that. So I'm just doing it across the account. And actually, you know what? I am going to do. I want to be number one on this all the time as well. So I'm just not going to choose to run it on this, and I'll do that manually. So let's choose my active campaigns. That's great. Okay. And I'll have to go back and edit the other rule to make sure that it's not running on that. So what we're going to do is we're going to set new bids, and we're going to decrease the bids. And 10% is a good number. I think it's a good number. So definitely want to have a lower bid option. I don't want it to drop necessarily under $1.50. This client is between pretty much $1 and $5. I just don't want it getting too carried away and going too low. And that's also the reason why we check the impressions. Because if you don't check the impressions, it might just it'll see that it's position 0 yesterday, and it'll just keep lowering it, or raising it. So that's why you have to have that logic in there to check the impressions. So then we go to impressions, and we're also going to do greater than 0. We're going to add group name. Now remember, the ad group name is really specific to this client, so you probably don't need to do this, or if you can, I wanted to show you how to do it and some of the extra options that you can do, because you can get pretty fancy with this. And like another thing you might want to check besides impressions is impression share. And if you're losing impression share on keywords, sometimes that's due to quality score, and sometimes the only way to fix that is to raise your bids. So now we're looking for average position. Okay. And so this time I want to do less than 1.8. Apply. So this is going to keep me between, basically right around number 2. And I'll show you a cool way how to check this. If it's actually working, you just have to give it a few days to work, probably maybe a week, to get all your bids dialed in. And you can go through and kind of manually adjust the bids in the beginning if you want to, but you don't have to, because this will take care of that eventually. And I just want to get only if there are errors, and we're going to call this decrease bids. Just double check everything. Decrease bids by 10% if we have more than 0 impressions, the ad group does not contain lockout, and the average position is less than 1.8, and less than being higher on the page. And we're going to save that, and we are good to go. So and then I'll actually just pause these. I think I had these set a little different, so I'll come back and do that later. But that's basically how you set up those automated rules. Now what you can do is you can come to the overview page, and let's say we set this up 7 days ago. We can check the average position overall, and we can see how it's declined over the days. So you can see, he's always pretty much number 1, so he's getting a lot more traffic now, so that's why we're able to reduce his position on the page and get him some more leads for less money, and that's why you'll want to do the same thing. So I hope that video helps you. As always, if you have any questions, then feel free to reach out, and happy bidding. Thanks. Bye.